close to a week, maybe, I think. Anyways, I was reading this. Strange things are happening in Creepers, Dr. Death. So we were on chapter 3. And I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit of the page before the next chapter. So we know. So we can remember and recall what I read last time. But I want to go ahead and open my 3D delicious fruit gummy strawberry burst. Artificially flavored 3D shaped juice filled gummies. So man, tore it apart. I'm probably not going to be able to do that one. So let's see. There's some pretty nice sized strawberries, juice filled. I wasn't gonna do gummies tonight, but I decided what the hell. I got my H2O, so grab yourself a drink. Grab yourself a snack. And let's get into the book. So I'm going to start right here. Okay, I know Mom, she upset draining what was left of the soda. But fruit and water just doesn't go down as smooth, you know. The washing machine had started its cycle. And Jacob walked upstairs to change out of his school clothes. Jacob, Mom shouted after him. Did you hear what I said? I'm taking you to see our new doctor. Tomorrow, Dr. Blair. I think his name is, to see if he can do anything to help your skin. Oh, she goes, Dr. Blair, I think his name is to see if he can do anything to help your skin. I'll pick you up straight after work, okay? And don't, for heaven's sake, tell him about all the chocolate bars and soda. Let me do the talking. Let me do the talking, Jacob thought to himself. Just who was she kidding? With his mother around, no one else ever got the chance to do any talking, least of all him. Dr. Blair, he thought, let's see if you know your stuff. Now to chapter 3. It says Dr. Popular. The next day, Caleb wasn't at school. His mom said he had what did she call it? Santiago laughed. Oh yeah, an upset tummy. He finished doing a passable imitation of Caleb's mom's voice. When I texted him this morning, that's what she said. Not, sorry Santiago, he can't get off the toilet, or sorry Santiago, he had a bad case of the runs, just sorry Santiago. He has an upset tummy. Too much excitement yesterday, probably. Jacob and Xavier laughed too, thinking of all the fun they'd have when Caleb got back to school, making farting noises in class, putting toilet paper in his backpack, etc. Jacob sat alone during geography, as it was Caleb who normally sat beside him in that class. He didn't mind one bit though, because he spent all of his class staring at the desk, staring at the back of Emma Summers' head anyway. He had specifically chosen this seat At the start of the semester, it was the only class he shared with Emma, and he had been determined to sit close by her once each day. As the bell rang to signify the end of the period, she stood up to gather her books. She turned to Jacob. "Congratulations, Jacob. You played great yesterday. You must be really proud." She smiled and waited to see what Jacob would say. Thanks," he muttered, rising to his feet. Self-consciously, he tugged at his hair. Wait a minute. Self-consciously, he tugged at his hair, pulling it forward to hide the horrible zits on his forehead. As he stood, he knocked over his chair, which in turn knocked over the chair behind him, then knocked against the desk. Sorry, he stammered, blushing furiously and turning to help whoever he'd knocked over behind him. Let me grab a few of these now. I'll have to close this up later. And turned back to Emma, trying desperately to think of something witty or funny to say. But Emma wasn't there. He was practically the last one left in the classroom, apart from the pathetic little teacher's pet, Jones, who always sat at the front of the class, asking the teacher one thing or another. Emma, beautiful, perfect Emma, was gone. Sighing heavily, Jacob picked up his books and left the classroom. He could scream, "What an idiot! The chance of a lifetime, and he'd blown it. He'd better not tell Xavier or he'd lose it. And maybe he should." Friday afternoon, second to last period, and he blew what could have been his. First Saturday night there with Emma. He had no idea what his history teacher said the entire experience. He couldn't stop replaying what had just happened over and over again. Finally, after what seemed like forever, the bell rang and school was over. As he walked out the front door, he was surprised to see his mother's car parked outside. She honked noisily and signaled at him to hurry up. He'd forgotten the doctor's appointment, though he may as well be covered in zits from head to toe, considering the way he'd just behaved with Emma. Great, he thought as he crossed the road. My whole face may as well be one large pimple, with white and yellow poison seeping from it. "Hi, Mom," he said as he opened the car door. Checking her mirror and putting the car in drive, Miss Chung pulled away. "Hi yourself," she smiled as she turned to look at her son, before her smile quickly faded. "And what's got you down today?" Jacob shrugged and looked out the window. "I was talking to Caleb's mom today. You didn't tell me your team won the championship yesterday, that you scored with the winning basket." "I did, Mom," Jacob began. "You just weren't listening. I said to Marjorie this morning, isn't that just typical of my son? Never tells me anything that may be important. It's spends all his time holed up in his room, making occasional trips to the fridge. Marjorie said herself she probably wouldn't have known either, only Caleb wasn't himself last night. An upset tummy, she said, and apparently that's how he gets when he's been overly excited. She said it was the first time you had won the championship in how many years? Oh yeah, 7, that's right. Jacob rolled his eyes, then resumed looking out the window. He wondered briefly if Emma was capable of droning on like this. Horrified, he shut the thought out quickly. No, he decided, this trait was exclusive to his mother. Surely, this was simply his mom being his mom. Arriving at the doctor's office, neither Jacob nor his mom could believe their eyes. The parking lot was completely full, and there were cars double parked on both sides of the road. Good heavens, Miss Chung breathed as she circled the parking lot for the 3rd time. There must be some sort of epidemic. I've never seen the doctor's office so busy in all my life. Jacob had to agree. Even the annual summer fair held at school didn't attract as many people as this. He wondered what on earth was going on. Look, Mom, over there, he pointed out. Oh yes, good eye. Mrs. Winterman from the bakery had just come out and was getting ready to reverse her car out of the parking lot. I wonder what's wrong with her, Miss Chung thought aloud. She doesn't look ill to me. Jacob and his mom were dumbfounded when they pushed open the door of the doctor's office. There wasn't an open seat in the whole place. Mothers with toddlers squirming on their laps were seated beside young women with new babies. One turned sat beside elderly arthritic ladies who clutched their walking sticks to their sides. The normally composed receptionist was rushed off her feet, the phone rang off the hook, buzzers and buzzed, and people continuously demanded appointments. As Miss Chung and Jacob approached the desk, the receptionist was finishing a call. Yes, that's mine, Mrs. Collins, Monday at 9:30 a.m. She searched frantically for her pen. Jacob pointed to behind his ear as she looked at him quizzically. She lifted the appointments book and looked underneath that before checking in her pocket. Jacob again tapped the side of his head. It's in my inner ear. So, Jacob again tapped the side of his head, just above his ear. Sorry, Mrs. Collins, just a moment. I seem to have misplaced my pen. She touched her hand to the side of her head and at once located the missing object. Smiling her thanks to Jacob, she wrote in the appointment, saying goodbye to her caller, and hung up the phone. Pushing her hair back from her eyes, she looked expectantly at Miss Chung. Oh, Jacob Chung, said his mom. We have an appointment with Dr. Blair at 4:30. The buzzer buzzed. The receptionist checked her book and leaned forward to shout through the glass partition. Mrs. Burns, Dr. Blair will see you now. She watched Mrs. Burns make her way into the doctor's room, then turned back toward Jacob. I'm afraid we're running a little behind schedule. We've just been so busy, as I'm sure you can see, but if you'd like to take a seat, if you can find one, that is, I'm sure the doctor shouldn't be too long. I need some Wawa, some water. so needy in the evening. Oh my gosh. I'm constantly picking up Lola. She's just like a little 2-year-old. And then Sophie sits right next to me right now and is looking up at me like, hello. Lola's a big, Lola is very, very needy. Okay, Jacob was about to say that he'd come back some other day, but his mother obviously seemed to enjoy sitting around for hours and hours reading out-of-date magazines because she merely smiled, thanked the receptionist, and went off in search of a seat. Jacob had never been so bored in his whole life. He'd spent the first 15 minutes of his wait trying not to breathe the same air as the twins who sat on his right-hand side. They looked as if they had a bad case of chickenpox, and Jacob certainly didn't want to catch that. He had more than enough spots as is. After that, he tried to work out on average whether he'd eaten more Snickers or Twix bars that week. He was learning all about averages in math and tended to practice a theory on just about everything, including how many visits he made to the bathroom in a period of 1 week. It was no use, though. He couldn't remember whether he'd had a Twix on Wednesday or if that had been the day he deviated altogether and had a Milky Way. Keeping up with his chocolate-eating habit was exhausting. He was anticipating cutting a lot of the sugar out of his diet after this appointment. He glanced at his mom and wondered if it was worth suggesting they leave. She was chewing her left thumbnail on the way she always did when she was concentrating on something. Leaning closer, Jacob was able to see she was immersed in an article. No point in suggesting leaving then. He sighed, shifting comfortably in his seat. It was getting hot in there now. He pulled at the collar of his sweatshirt. He'd have to take his jacket off soon. Don't fidget, Jacob, Miss Chung said, absent-mindedly, never taking her eyes from her magazine. Jacob wished they kept this waiting room stocked with more magazines or books that he would like. Here's Sophie. She's a big girl. That girl can jump still. She's 20 pounds. See her paw? There she is, all in her glory. Hi, Sophie. Hi, Sophie. Hi, Sophie. Okay. She thinks she can jump. She's a big girl. That's one big hefty girl. There she goes. She's gonna jump again. The doctor's office had become memorable to him because his mother always assured him there would be something to keep him occupied. But he only ever found books for children and magazines for his mother. Jacob Chung, called the red-faced, exhausted receptionist. Jacob Chung, Dr. Blair will see you now. His mom sat up with a jolt, her front teeth going right through her thumbnail as she did so. Dang it, she murmured involuntarily. Then, straightening her skirt, she smiled apologetically at the people she pushed past, and with Jacob just behind, she entered Dr. Blair's exam room. Chapter 4. Dr. Perfect? Question mark. Miss Chung, nice to meet you. Dr. Blair got up and walked toward them, his hand outstretched toward Jacob's mom. And you must be Jacob, he smiled at the boy, still holding onto Miss Chung's hand. Jacob looked at his mother, noticing that she didn't seem to be trying too hard to disentangle herself from the doctor's grasp. "Please take a seat," the doctor continued, as he finally let go of Miss Chung's hand and closed the door. "What can I help you with today?" Miss Chung was gobsmacked. Now she knew why the waiting room was so busy. The sky was drop-dead gorgeous. At least 6 foot 2 inches tall, a head of unruly dark hair, and the most piercing blue eyes she'd ever had the pleasure of looking into. Jacob nudged her sharply with his elbow. "What? Oh, sorry, Dr. Blair. Did you ask me something?" muttered Miss Chung, shifting in her seat. Miss Chung cleared her throat and tried to concentrate on what the doctor was saying instead of staring into his deep blue eyes. Dr. Blair smiled a slow, lazy smile which lit up his whole face. Eyes twinkling, he picked up his pen and before opening Jacob's file. "What exactly can I help you with today?" he repeated, looking from Miss Chung to Jacob, then back again to Miss Chung. Gathering her composure, Miss Chung leaned over Jacob and pushed his hair back from his face. "It's his skin, Dr. Blair. Pimples, you see, lots of them." "There aren't that many, Mom." Jacob flushed. Ignoring him, his mom went on. "They can get a lot worse than this, and sometimes his whole face is affected. I just wondered if there was any cream you would recommend he should use other than the one he has right now. He can be a bit sensitive, you know, at his age, starting to get interested in girls, though he pretends otherwise. Don't you, Jacob?" She smiled and winked at Jacob as though they shared some sort of special secret. That was it. The ultimate embarrassment. Jacob wanted to die. First, his mother went all silly over the new doctor. Then he had to sit there while she exposed all his sins. And now she told this stranger that he was crushing on girls. Jacob turned bright red, knowing as he did only made his sins stand out even more. Dr. Blair got up and came over for a closer look. Though Jacob thought he could have. Oh my God, let me start over. Dr. Blair got up and came over for a closer look. Though Jacob thought he could have seen perfectly well from the other side of the desk, especially since his pimples felt huge at that point. Dr. Blair bent down and peered closely at the mortified boy's forehead. Mortified? Poor kid. Need some water. "Oh yes," he mumbled. "Just a mild form of acne. Nothing we can't deal with here." "Acne," thought Jacob. "Acne? Old Doc Feldman hasn't said it was acne. Just some teenage pimples. He said not acne. How terrible. He couldn't tell his friend about this. What if Emma found out? She'd never go out with a boy with acne. School basketball, hero or not. He'd have to keep this very quiet." He turned to hear what the doctor was saying, at the same time making himself a silent promise never to snack on chocolate or drink soda ever again. "No need to go to the pharmacy. I have some ointment already made up here, Miss Chung," Dr. Blair was saying. He took a small tub of clear ointment from his drawer and placed it on the desk in front of him. "There you go, Jacob. Simply rub that on your acne every night before you go to bed. And you'll soon see a remarkable difference, I promise." Miss Chung lifted the tub and and put it into her purse. Thank you so much, Dr. Blair. You've been very kind. Should we make another appointment to come back and see you? You know, just to see how he's progressing. She put her head on one side as she stood, and her voice sounded silly and squeaky as she spoke. Jacob wanted to throw up. His mother liked the doctor. She was a complete embarrassment. She always did the head on one side squeaky voice thing when she liked someone. He'd seen it all before, and each time it made him cringe. There shouldn't be any need, I don't think, replied the doctor, but if you feel another visit is necessary, then yes, I would be delighted to see you again. He opened the door and shook Miss Jung's hand and started guiding her toward the door. It's been a real pleasure, he told her. See you again sometime. Thank you, Dr. Blair, thank you. Miss Jung gushed as she almost tripped over a toy leg on the waiting room floor. People out here are going to think he performed a life-saving open heart surgery on me the way she's going on, Jacob thought as he too stared at walking out of the room. Pimples, Jacob, the doctor spoke softly. You ain't seen nothing yet, Dr. Blair continued. Then pressing his buzzer, he asked for his next patient to be sent in. What did you just say? Asked Jacob, who thought he must be hearing things. Jacob turned around to look at Dr. Blair. His face was like stone now, the twinkly smile gone. I said, close the door. You're letting in a draft. Okay, weird. Did you guys get that? The doctor actually spoke to him and said, Pimples, Jacob. You ain't seen nothing yet. Oh, scary. Chapter 5, Spot the Difference. I thought I would just read 2 chapters at a time. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read 3 pages of chapter 5. I think there's like 6 or 7 pages of chapter 5, but we'll just read 3. Spot the difference. Jacob threw an apple core into the trash can. It resolved firmly in his mind now that he was turning over a new leaf. No more junk food. He also put on his prescribed ointment every night. He was determined to rid himself once and for all of his pimples and determined not to pay another visit to Dr. Blair's office ever again. Today had been absolutely humiliating for him. If his mother wanted to see the attractive doctor again, she could go on her own. Jacob certainly wouldn't be accompanying her, that was for sure. And that was the doctor said while Jacob was leaving. Wait a minute. And what was that doctor? That's confusing. And what was that doctor said while Jacob was leaving? Jacob didn't know whether he was imagining things or not, but even if he had imagined what the doctor's parting words were, he certainly hadn't imagined the look on his face. It was a complete change from when Mom was around. Jacob thought as he unscrewed the lid and dipped his finger into the ointment. Here goes nothing, he told his reflection as he began rubbing the cream onto his forehead. Do your worst, Dr. Blair. Reaching out of bed the next morning, Jacob shut off Tina Belcher's voice on his alarm clock. He yawned sleepily and snuggled back under the covers. Just another 10 minutes, he thought, as he did every morning, knowing full well that his mom would wake him if he didn't come down for breakfast on time. Cocooned like a caterpillar in his duvet, he allowed himself to wake slowly, letting thoughts of what today would bring creep into his head. It's finally Saturday, he thought happily. I'll do my paper route, come back for a huge breakfast, then meet Xavier and the rest of the gang for some serious hanging out at the mall. Might even spot Emma down there if I'm lucky. Agony, he thought. Suddenly alert, I forgot about the ointment. I wonder if it's worked yet. Jumping out of bed with a crash and causing his mother to yell from her position cooking breakfast downstairs, he rushed over to his dresser mirror for a look. He gasped. What the? I can't believe this. No, no, he shouted. Mom, come up here. You have to help me, Mom. Come quickly, please. Miss Chung took the stairs 2 at a time. He must have fallen when I heard the crash, she thought. I assumed he'd just been messing around as usual. Dear Lord, he's probably cracked his head open on the bedside table. Jacob, she said as she flew into the room. What is it? What's wrong? She stopped in her tracks. The boy was fine, kneeling in front of his dresser mirror without a scratch in sight. Jacob Chung, she admonished, sitting on the edge of the bed to catch her breath. You scared me. I thought there was something wrong, or that you'd fallen and hurt yourself. Wrong. Of course there's something wrong. Look at my face, or what's left of my face. You know the expression, can't see the forest for the trees. Well, try. Can't see the face for the pimples. Miss Chung looked more closely at her son. Oh yes, she agreed. I see what you mean. There are a few more this morning. And what's that one on the bridge of your nose? Is that pus oozing out of it? She bent forward to touch Jacob's face and he pulled away quickly. Don't touch them, Mom. You'll make it worse. He turned back to the mirror, horrified. Look at his face. It's all screwed up. Okay. I kind of want to keep reading, but I don't know what I should do. I'm going to go ahead and read this one more page, okay? A few more. Oh, that wasn't the understatement of the century. Yesterday's cluster of red pimples had now multiplied, and it wasn't just his forehead that was affected. He had a sprinkling on either cheek, the offending one on the bridge of his nose, and the ones that had always been on his forehead had doubled in size and filled up with alternating buckets of green or yellow pus. He simply couldn't believe his eyes. I can't go out looking like this, Mom. Young children will scream, cats and dogs will run away in fear. My friends won't want to be seen with me, and what if I see Emma? Horrified at the prospect of coming face to face with the girl he had eagerly looked forward to seeing just a few minutes earlier, Jacob shook his head in dismay. His mother reached out to pat his shoulder comfortingly. Jacob, calm down. Come on now. It's not as bad as you think. Once you've washed your hair and dried it over your forehead the way you usually do, it won't look half as bad, honestly. It's that new cream, Jacob said disgustedly. I should have never listened to you and that new doctor. My skin wasn't this bad yesterday, and look at me now. I look like I just spent 4 hours in makeup getting ready for a part in Freddy Krueger movie. Miss Chung suppressed a smile and picked up the tub of ointment. Listen, Jacob, she said softly. It says here on the side of the tub, may make condition worse before any improvement is seen. You see, worse before it gets better. Your granny used to say that. Don't you remember? Yeah, I remember. Jacob said huffily. Only I thought it was just another old wives' tale. Well, there may be some truth to this one, said Miss Chung as she placed the tub back on the dresser. Look, Jacob, try and see the bright side of this. It's Saturday, right? You apply the cream again tonight, and then you'll have the whole day Sunday to mope around the house looking blotchy and feeling horrible. Then you apply the cream on Sunday night, and presto, Monday morning you get up for school with the clearest, most zit-free skin in the world. You'll have the worst days at home over the weekend and the better days back at school with your friends. Jacob looked at her hopefully. You really think so, Mom? You think that's what'll happen? Well, it's possible, isn't it? His mother answered, hiding her crossed fingers behind her back. Come on, let's go. You've got a paper route to do. And no buts. She put her fingers to her son's lips, stopping his protest. You do not look nearly as bad as you think, Jacob. And half the world's still asleep anyway. Go on, go and get showered, and off you go. I'll have a huge breakfast waiting for you when you get back. So go work up an appetite. Go, go, go. Jacob walked to the bathroom, turned on the shower faucet, and started to hum a little tune. Mom was right. He had all weekend to get rid of the pimples, and the prospect of getting rid of them completely was almost too staggering for words. Maybe he should apply the cream more often than just once a night. Yes, that's what he'd do. He'd apply it once every few hours just to speed the process. He let the hot water run over his hair and down his back. He could hardly wait until Monday morning. Okay, let's stop there. So we'll stop right there. And hopefully I will be able to pick up again tomorrow. So I won't be able to do another Dollar Tree until Friday when I get paid. So, alright, I hope you guys have a great day, great night, great evening. And also, before I forget, please subscribe. There's still 54.4% people who are not subscribed who are still looking at my videos. I would really, truly appreciate your subscription. It's free. I would be so ever grateful. Also, give me a thumbs up and hit the notification bell to get notified of my next upcoming video.